Hey there, T Romeo, listen to me. Tom Romeo from PCS here to show you how we're going to add disks to our new VM. So remember I said earlier that we were going to add disks, and the reason we're going to add disks is because we're going to have SQL Server Express on this computer. So here we go. I'm going to go to disks, and I'm going to create a new disk. And I'm going to name it right after the VM. And what's cool here is I'm going to be able to pick the size as well. So here we go. It's called PCS Traverse VM 001 Disk 1. And let's say this is going to be for my transaction log, right? So for the transaction log, I don't expect it to get all that crazy big. So, 20 gigabytes is more than plenty for the transaction log. Now, while that's going on, I want to point out this little fact right here. Max IOPS. That number actually increases as you go larger with your disks. So I'm going to wait for that to finish. In the meantime, I'm going to add another disk, and PCS Traverse VM 001 disk. Ooh, wow. Okay, so I guess it finished. Let's start that again. PCS Traverse VM disk 2. And this one I'm going to, let's just see what happens, right? I'm going to make it 1000. You see how the max IOPS increased? Now I don't need a terabyte for my data. Probably 100 gigabytes is plenty. And you see how the size actually increased. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another disk that's a little faster because I'm not digging this one. Or maybe what I'll do is I'll edit that disk and make it faster. So to do that, let's first save this one. And then when it's complete, I'm going to see if I can edit that one and make it a little bigger. I'll make them both 100. And if it doesn't let me, worst case, I'll delete that one and then recreate it. But I think it's going to let me change it. Maybe it won't. It looks like there's an edit button here and there's an X. So I think when this finally completes this task, it's going to have 2 X's. So what I'm going to do is delete that first disk and give myself 200 gigabyte disks. And that's more than adequate for the size of the Traverse database and the size of the transaction log. It really is. Okay, so as you see, I've got two disks here. And see, I didn't even name them the same. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this disk and add a new one. And this one is going to be called PCS Traverse VM disk 1. And I'm going to make it 100 gigabytes as well. Okay, so now I'm going to save it, and now we'll have 200 gigabyte disks attached to this VM. Now that I've added 2 disks and I didn't spell them the same or anything like that, that's okay. Because now we're going to look at the VM itself and just run Alt Windows key X and go to Disk Management. And on disk management, we're going to see 2 new disks. Okay, and now I'm going to add both of these disks. So here's disk 2. So if you notice, this is disk 0. If I open up Windows Explorer, this PC, you see there's a C disk, right? So I'm going to name them D and E. Okay, so let's go do that. Oh, actually, I can't name it D because D is the temporary storage disk. So I'm going to name E and F. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to make a new simple volume. I'll use all of it, and I'm going to call it, oh, E is not available. Okay, so F and G. That's fine. And I'm going to call this F disk. And I'm going to make a new simple volume here. And we'll call this G disk. If I open up Windows Explorer and go to this PC, now you see I've got an F disk, a G disk, and a C disk. And so now we've added disks to this virtual machine. Perfect. And these 2 disks will be used for SQL Server and Traverse. I guess I could put it on the C drive. Maybe I'll put it on one of these 2 disks. Maybe I'll put Traverse on the transaction log disk, and I'll put the database on the other disk. Okay, over and out. Thanks for watching, and remember, you can download all of our software from our website.